Well, at 7 o'clock, I'd like to call to order the April 13th, 2021 meeting of the Columbiana Planning Commission. I'll ask Dan to give the invocation, then I'll then I'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Dan, if you would, please.
Lord, we ask you for your presence and your blessing tonight on our community and on our nation.
Yeah, can't
Be
hear
with our
nobody.
leaders and our volunteers as they serve our community. Give them wisdom as they make decisions to keep our citizens safe and bring peace and unity to our nation. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dan, can we have a roll call, please?
Ted,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Bryce,
Here.
Tucker,
Here.
Rick,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
All right. You've all received the minutes from the March 9th meeting, 2021. Is there any additions or corrections to those? They will stand as approved. We have no old business, so we'll move right into new business. First item is a public hearing to be at 7:15 for Kenneth Shealy regarding operating a car and truck repair business at 11 East Salem Street. So at 7:15 or shortly thereafter, we will jump in and take care of that. Second item is a site plan review for William Nemi. He would like to apply for an FFL, Federal Firearms License, to manufacture various gun parts in his tool and die shop at 1370 Kaufman Avenue. Mr. Nemi, are you here?
He's on mute.
Yeah, if you unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, good.
give us a little input on what you'd like to do.
What we're looking to do is just to manufacture, not manufacture firearms complete. It's to do manufacture some parts, and some in particular would be like to add different sights to different firearms. And one of the new things now a lot of people are going with is red dot optics on handguns, and we feel there's a need for a lot of different custom mounts to mount that kind of stuff on different firearms, and also do some machine engraving to just custom stuff on firearms also, and maybe some finishes as well.
Okay, is there any questions or comments from the board?
One question I had was that if you do not obtain the FFL needed to operate this business, are you going to move forward in any other direction, or will that plan kind of cease at that point?
No, it would cease, because the big reason for the FFL is for mainly just to ship, send, and receive stuff through the mail, which anything that has a serial number on it, it has to ship from an FFL to an FFL holder with paperwork doing.
Okay.
So yeah, that would put an end to it pretty much if we couldn't get the FFL.
My question was whether it even concerns us as a planning commission as what you're going to manufacture. I appreciate you coming to us and letting us know that what your intentions are. That way we don't get blindsided on things. At this time, would there somebody like to entertain a motion?
I'll motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Dan, if you call the roll, please.
Ted,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
And that motion passes. Our next item is a replat. Jeremy Makel, representing Firestone Homestead LLC, seeks the Planning Commission's approval to replat Lot 1, thus creating Lot 4. Jeremy, you'd give us a little insight of your plans?
I think it's somewhat self-explanatory, but we're replatting our lot number 1, which is the lot with a town center on it. We're creating a new lot number 4, and we plan on selling that lot to the Salem Regional Medical Center. I believe they were at your meeting a few months ago with their plans.
Any questions from the board?
No.
I move that we approve the replat as presented.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Dan, if you would call roll, please.
Scott,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes. Motion passes. Thanks, Jeremy. Next item is a replat lot split. Megan Swigan seeks the Planning Commission's approval to split the property located at 453 West Southern Avenue. Megan, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I guess it's pretty much self-explained too. I think the realtor's also here with us on the same item. Harry,
Yes, I am. Thank you.
if give us either one of you give us a little insight of your plans or.
Sure. We sold this property to Ben Dickey, Armadillo Development. There's about 32 acres, 32.5 acres there currently. Sold 3.7 to be exact acres to Megan, her husband, and we need to carve that off out of the 32 acres. In addition to that, Armadillo Development, I can say this, they went ahead and ran the sewer connected to the city sewer, as well as it already had city water. So those issues are no more.
So this,
Any questions?
yeah, I got a quick question. So this subdivision, the separation off is for the house, correct?
Yes, it's the house and everything to the west of the house, or the east of the house. It's a
Now, my question is, since the house is not located on the drawing, does the house meet the setback requirements in the new
yes, yes.
property split?
Yes, it does.
So, and what are those setbacks? I just want to I don't want to separate something off without having the proper setbacks.
Probably on the west side, there's several hundred feet. To the north is 50, 60 feet. To the east is 25 feet. There's a driveway, then a yard, then the house, and the back goes clear towards the lake, which is another probably 60, 80 feet, so it's well within the parameters.
Can we have anybody verify that? I mean, not trying to be difficult. I just hate to have a subdivision or a property split without actually having the setbacks shown on the property that we have sitting there.
Be happy to do that. 72 did not realize that you'd need a drawing of that. It was surveyed by Keith Chamberlain.
Right.
Uh,
But you understand my concern.
I understand your point, Tucker. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I don't have a problem to approve as submitted, contingent upon getting the proper setbacks recorded with Augie.
No problem.
I'll just add one note here. The Southern Avenue didn't move, right? And the house didn't move. So it's the same setback as it was before. So really the only thing that we'd be looking at is east-west, if I'm not
Right,
mistaken.
correct. Now, when I meant setbacks, I meant generalized setbacks.
Yeah, yep,
Not the setback from Southern Avenue.
yeah.
Yeah, actually have enlarged the house from when, thank you, Lance, from when Miss Yarab owned it. We've enlarged it in 3 different directions from the original parcel.
It's a beautiful house. I mean, I grew up kind of that side of the tracks and drove by it a lot as a kid, seeing it sit back there.
I know Megan and Carl are excited about it, for sure.
Someone will make a motion contingent at the numbers fit, the setback, which I'm pretty comfortable that they would. I'm not, is it, what,
Can
R3
we-
or 2?
Excuse me.
Yes,
Carl has a question, if he
Yeah,
can.
sure.
I'm just wondering, what are the requirements for setbacks from the edge of the road or the center of the road, what they may be, and the other edges of property?
I can look that up here real quickly.
You got your book, Tuck? I don't have my book.
Yeah, I got my book in front of me. That's an R1, I believe. They don't,
Is it R1? I thought I looked today and it was an R3, but I don't.
it's an R3. I don't know what that out there. It might be an R3 because that's where Camelot is.
It's, yeah,
Yeah, so the front yard is 30 foot. The rear yard is 30 foot. And the side yards are total of 12 feet.
So we're well within that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I wouldn't think we needed to have any contingents there.
I mean, if we're well within that, what does it require to lift the contingency? Because we're on a deadline to close.
Well, that's what I just said. I don't,
Yeah.
in my opinion, you're well within that. I don't think we need to
Perfect.
approve it with a contingency. We could just approve it as is.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
That up, Tucker?
You're good with that, Tuck?
Yes, I'll live with it.
Does somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to approve the split, the replat and split as submitted.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Deanne, if you'd call the roll, please.
Bryce,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes,
Ted,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
That motion passes. I have 7:14 on my clock. I think we can slip in and do this public hearing now. We have a public hearing regarding operation of a car and truck repair business at 11 East Salem Street, Mr. Kenneth Shealy.
Yes.
I guess, Mr. Shealy, if there's anybody in the public, you can kind of give them an input of what your plans are, what you intend to do. And then we can get, if there's anybody from the public that has any
Well,
questions.
As we stated before, in the last 2 Zoom meetings, these are repairs only done by appointment. I do not, but I cannot tell you that I'm not going to do car repair. There's 5,000 cars that pass, and I can't give up that business. But I will say that most of my business, 95% of my business, is by appointment only, and these are by trucks that are $450,000 plus. So, it's like I said before, you can leave your car somewhere for 6 months and not miss it. But when you leave a $450,000 vehicle behind, you need it to work.
Okay, thank you. And anybody from the public that has any concerns? I guess hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And if there, seek a motion here to approve a conditional zoning certificate for Mr. Shealy to operate car and truck repair at 11 East Salem Street. If somebody'd like to make that motion. I'll make that motion. Anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Any more further discussion from the commission?
One thing I wanted to bring up, I know we talked about it in the last meeting, I think maybe Tucker brought it up, was that with these conditional zoning uses that I think we as a commission would like to see, the progress after a year and bring some of these back in front of the commission for review. Just wanted to see if we've made any progress on that.
I'll interject. You have to review them after a year. These are only good for 12 months. So if you pass it, it's good for 1 year. If you deny it, then actually it can't be reapplied for 12 months also.
Okay.
But the big thing is we've never made people accountable for that yearly renewal. That's the thing that Bryce's point was, is that
true, technically, right.
And that at the end of every planning commission, we probably should have a brief discussion of any that are up for review and do it on a yearly basis.
I think that's a good suggestion.
It's a great suggestion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. So I guess Deanne, if you roll call, please.
Tucker,
Abstain.
Rick,
Yes,
Ted,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Shealy, it was a long drawn out affair, but good luck.
It was. Thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Next item is a site plan review for Nick DeMelo. Help me out here.
DeMilo.
DeMilo, okay. I am horrible with names. I'm sorry.
It's a tough one.
Representing Milo Land Company seeks the Planning Commission's approval to construct 2 buildings on lot number 4. The proposed building site is located on the corner of Idabella Circle and Route 7. Give us a little input on your plans.
Sure. Yeah. I thank you guys for the time this evening. I also have David Harris with me, who's the architect for the project, and John Volnogel, who is with House and Bear, who's doing the civil engineering for the project. So they can answer any technical questions anybody may have. But basically, the site in question is about a 2.5 acre piece of property. Just to orient everybody, it is south of the Mercy Health facility, the former Prima Healthcare facility on Market Street in Royal Burkdale, and just north of the town center at Firestone Farms, Jeremy and Tom's commercial development there. So we are proposing developing the site to construct 2 buildings. The first building would be a retail plaza, approximately 6,500 square feet. It would run parallel to Route 7. The second building would be approximately a 9,000 square foot building to the rear, or what would be the east. There would be ingress egress off of Town Center to the east, as well as off of Idabel to the south. The first building, the plaza, would be retail in nature. Prospective tenants would be retail, restaurant oriented. The building in the rear would be less retail, probably would consist of office, restaurants, and more of a mixed use. The intent of the project would be to lease the space out, so it would not be owner occupied or anything like that. And I guess just generally, we intend from a design standpoint to complement the neighboring properties. Obviously, Jeremy and Tom did a fabulous job with their development to the south, and also some of the other neighboring properties to the north. We want to construct the building in the same sort of finish to complement the general Firestone Farms area. So that's pretty much an overview. So happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Are there any questions from the board?
I flipped through them. You meet all the setback requirements, parking stalls. I mean, everything was, John did an excellent job on the site drawing and the layout.
When do you anticipate beginning any of those projects?
If it's up to me, as soon as possible. I would like to, my intent would be to try to get moving on the site work sooner rather than later. I know this is probably the first step in that, and we're, obviously going to be following along with the city's procedure, and then John could maybe speak to some of the other permitting that's required. But, I would like to start this project, certainly this year. And probably the biggest variable would be permitting.
And bar joist. You
Well,
can't.
yeah. And
Bar
lumber
joist
and
about
everything.
6 months out, if you can find them.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Motion. Bryce seconded. Dan, if you would, please.
Rick,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Congratulations and good luck.
Good
Thank you
luck
very
to you.
much. Appreciate it.
Next item is a site plan review. Lisa Lorelli seeks the Planning Commission's approval to open a restaurant, Riser Tavern, on the Links at the former Links Banquet Center located at 105 1/2 St. Andrews Drive. Lisa, are you with us?
Yes.
Could you give us a little input on your plans?
We are opening a Riser Tavern. We have one in Boardman right now. And we're going to be opening one here at the Links in part of the banquet center. So there's a wall. So part of the banquet center. It's just going to be the same concept, same menu. We're going to, it'll be a neighborhood restaurant and bar, sports bar.
Okay. Is there any questions?
Well, I know Lisa. I went to high school with Lisa. I
Tucker.
can attest to her character and the business that she runs. Riser is a very nice place right up there in Boardman. And I think she already booked my high school reunion at the one in Columbiana. If she can get it open in time. So
let's hope.
So yeah, I definitely, the town will be lucky to have Lisa and her partner in town and add to the community they already have here. So I'm excited about it. So I definitely, I would motion to approve as submitted.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I'd second that with one caveat. Lisa, our golf league starts next Thursday. Is there any chance this will be done Thursday night?
Come on up and see it. You can see the
I
progress
peeked in the
every
windows last
Thursday
week.
until we're open.
I did peek in the windows last week.
You bring beer, you can have a beer in here.
We have a motion and a second. Dan, if you call the roll, please.
Ted,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
The motion passes.
Great.
Good luck.
Well, Mark will be there about 7 tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Tucker.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye.
Hey, Mike.
Next item is a preliminary site plan review. Ray Boyd, representing S23B Commercial Properties LLC, seeks the Planning Commission's approval to proceed with the plans to purchase 6.5 acres on the corner of Route 14 and Springfield Road to build various use buildings. Ray, are you with us? If you'd unmute and kind of give us a little input on your plans. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear him?
I can't hear him either. I can see that he's speaking, but I can't hear him.
Looks like he's attempting to get on. This is one of his partners, so hopefully he can.
Yeah, I apologize. I always join Zoom by phone, and I had my phone muted and my Zoom muted. So sorry, everyone.
Not a problem.
I mean, it's no. I only do 20 meetings a week on Zoom and Teams, so you would think that.
Well, you could give us some lessons.
Yeah, it looks like I'm the one that needs them, but thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ted. Yeah, we're me and my partners, Todd and Tom Bogo, are we've developed a business plan and a site plan for a storage complex that we feel would meet several needs within the community. As you could see by the preliminary plan that we submitted, this is a very rough iteration. We kind of wanted to get some dialogue started with the city and mainly, to talk about the current zoning of C4 and getting a conditional use so that we could perhaps, move forward with our bid to purchase the land. But essentially, this is it's a storage complex. It's more, I guess, on the modern side with some micro office space and some mini warehouse space in the front portion of the property. And then as you go back into the property, we're developing it in a way that would meet some of the needs in the community, including, some climate controlled space, some space for RV garages, and, just not just your run of the mill storage facility. There will be, your traditional drive up storage, but, kind of wanting to bring a little bit more of a modern facility to the city. Something that, has an online presence, has a functional website, has more of a, with this past year in the COVID environment, we're looking for more also of, if potential customers want a no-touch option for doing an online rental application and going to their unit without having to, have the face-to-face interaction, just basically, formulate a facility that's a little bit more modern and something that'll, meet the needs of the community. I see a lot of RVs and a lot of large boats in driveways and yards, in the county and in the community. And, we don't have our feasibility study back, but our initial market analysis is pretty positive for something of this nature. So basically we wanted to approach the city today just to, to get conditional use permit on that particular parcel of land. Because as I said, it's currently zone C4 and we need, a special approval for that zoning because it is, I think it is adjacent to some R2 property, and obviously we understand that we need to verify, all the proper setbacks from R2 to, whatever, our buildings would be, determined whether the land would be still zone C4 but have a conditional use or whether it would be rezoned. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's the gist of what we wanted to present to the board tonight.
My one question is that property's always sat there. I think if I'm thinking of the right one, it's always been very low. And I think that might have had a lot of people have not been able to use it. What are you planning to do with that elevation? I mean, there seems like to be a lot of dirt work to be brought in to bring it up to a proper elevation. Is that
Yeah,
something
I mean, we've already kind of looked at that, and there is some grading that could be done, and there, as you said, there is probably some, soil and things that could be brought in, but our civil engineering firm, I'm sure, would come up with, the proper stormwater retention plan to, put a retention pond in either, on the surface of the property so that, there's no pressure on the storm sewer system of the city, or, much less pressure, or even a detention pond underground to basically accomplish the same thing. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a concern with, sort of the low elevation, but we don't see, with the size of the parcel being, almost 6.5 acres, and, our current site plan, which we consider phases 1 and 2 as what I've submitted, basically is a 3 to 3.5 acre site plan. So there would be plenty of room to, organize a retention pond, and present that, once we come up with our formal, site plan.
And then with the 50-foot setbacks against residential, that's a requirement against R, because I think it's on 2 sides as R or something like that. It's a nice location of a piece of property.
It is.
So what conditional
And we feel like,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tucker. No, we were just saying, we feel like there's already a nice buffer there along the property line with trees and, you know, and that in addition to, you know, the setback would provide a nice buffer between the R2 and what we plan on doing with the property.
Right. And I don't think there's a whole lot of climate controlled around here. I think there's one in Boardman. I know they're getting built all over the place over in Pittsburgh. But there's a lot around here.
Yeah, we're you know, we've looked at, you know, the potential for developing, you know, in Boardman, Salem, some other, you know, locations, and you know, just like I said, between, you know, no online presence, no climate controlled, no interior boat or RV storage to speak of. You know, we see some needs in this community, and the fact that it's, you know, a growing community and a developing community, it's, you know,
so
we see the opportunity.
What in C4 says that you need a conditional use permit? You're saying this is a C4.
Yeah, this is a C4, and I, based on, you know, my reading of the ordinances, it doesn't really, you don't really get into, at least from what I could see, you know, default inclusion of storage property until you get to like an I2 zoning. So, you know, I could be wrong, but you know, I wanted to be, you know, obviously my partners and I, you know, we've gone, there's a lot of chicken and egg syndrome to this process, where you want to get a nice piece of property under, you know, but you also need to be sure that you can use the property in the way that you intend. So, I mean, if it's somehow.
Lance, do you have any more feel on that? I mean, I've not been through mini storage. I mean,
right in the C4 permitted uses, automobile, truck,
that's what I'm looking
boat,
at.
trailer storage is permitted.
Right.
Yeah, you and I are looking at the same part. So I think this covers storage without a conditional permit.
I was trying to make sure I didn't find it. Someone didn't see something else that I saw differently.
I didn't. Yeah, I looked at this specifically. Looking at it again right now, automobile, truck, trailer, boat, and farm implement sales, service, and storage, both used as a permitted use in C4.
But this, you know, this would also be mini warehouses and things like that, you know, your traditional,
right,
you know, storage warehouse. And, you know, I'm happy to hear if it's an automatic permitted use. But like I said, you know, getting more excited about developing in Columbiana, I really tried to dig into the ordinances, and I really couldn't find what I was looking for till I got to I2. And, you know, I was like, well, okay, well, then it looks like we need to, you know,
You're
really
not looking to
talk
put
to
a car
someone just
wash,
to be
correct? Right.
Excuse me?
No car washes.
No,
okay.
No.
The warehousing, Ray, I would agree with you. Warehousing does show up the first time in I2. But I think we need to understand, you know, is it really warehousing or is it sales storage rather of vehicles, you know, in the climate controlled, what would be stored? I assume still vehicles. To me, I think that's what the crux of the issue is.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider this as warehouse.
Could I ask a question? I'm Mark Edwards. I reside over in the Meadows, properties close to this area. The property you're talking about is sort of the triangle between Springfield Road and 14. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Would the entrance to those properties be on Springfield Road or on the 14?
It would be on Springfield Road in order to basically facilitate the most safe entrance in and out of the property with, for example, if you've got a moving truck or a U-Haul vehicle or something like that, it would serve as like, somewhat of an access road that, so you're not trying to get, you've got, inexperienced sometimes drivers of U-Hauls trying to get in and out of a driveway off of a busy road like Route 14. We would bring the traffic in, into Springfield Road and then, access the property from there.
Well, that kind of brings up, well, either one, I guess, kind of brings up the question that end of Springfield Road is not a very wide or street. I wonder if there's any plans for improving that end of the road, and whether or not there's any plans for either a traffic circle or traffic light at that intersection, because it's already a problematic intersection. Not that I'm asking you directly, Mr. Boyd, but maybe the council.
We do have plans to pave that this year. I do not believe it, has any widening in that project. As far as the lights, that's strongly driven by ODOT, and they closely monitor those. I know that it is within the city limits, but for us to get a light there, we've done a couple studies in the years past, and it's the last time we checked, they would not recommend putting a light there, which means they're not going to help do it, which means it's all on our costs. So if we were to put that in, we would be putting out the cash. But we could do a traffic study. Maybe we could refresh that in the next couple months. We have a Omega. It's a quasi-governmental agency that may be able to help us out with that traffic counts and such.
Was a traffic circle a part of that question too? Not just a traffic light, but was a traffic circle considered?
No, I think even the light, when the discussions were taking place, the traffic circles weren't as prominent as they are now. So I think it was strictly a traffic light.
Mr. Boyd, I know you kind of outlaid some of your thoughts as to what you're going to have stored here, whether it be RVs or vehicles or anything else, but you said it's also going to be personal self-storage, right? Okay.
Yes.
Because in looking into C4 and even in the conditional uses, I think that more of a personal self-storage will fall under an I zoning
That's
code, correct? I think down in, the Space Center in Columbiana, that's an I. And then I think the other one out by Wordingly is also an I zoned as well.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know, maybe August or Mark or Lance might be able to chime in here, but I don't even
There's
see
a section in I that says public storage garages and yards under I2, light industrial.
Right.
But in a C4 conditional, I don't see anywhere where it talks about personal self-storage.
I don't think it really addresses it.
No.
I mean, so we're trying to understand the flavor of a C4 versus an I. Talk about a lot about sexually oriented businesses, though. I mean, you can't have that.
To be safe, if you're covering public, property or personal property storage, warehousing, then you are at an I. But I'm not sure if a conditional permit in a C4 gets you there. Look at that right now.
So why
Guys,
is it hours of operation? Is that it? I mean,
Guys, if I may chime in a little bit, I'm looking at section 16, which lists other uses similar in character to those listed above. I'm wondering if that would apply, because you've got the automotive storage available, if personal storage would apply in the same area. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's under C4.
truck trailer, right? I mean, that's tool and equipment rental, recreation establishments. You can vulcanize rubber.
Yeah, and that, I guess that's the other thing that I was, considering, that if it's an hours of operation thing, I know, based on my knowledge of the industry, there are facilities that do have hours of operation, to accommodate the location of the facility being, closer to, residential property or whatever.
So it says I2 is to provide for and accommodate the industrial uses in the fields of repair, industrial uses in the fields of repair, storage, manufacturing, processing, to accommodate the industrial uses. We're not dealing with an industrial use. To me,
No.
mini storages are not an industrial use. I know what I2 says, but you have to read kind of what my opinion is, what the flavor is about. And is to provide for and accommodate industrial uses in the fields of repair, storage, manufacturing, processing, wholesaling, distribution, free from the encroachment of residential, retail, and institutional uses. That definition to me is not mini storages for residential use. So I think it falls under C4, honestly. I know what I4 says, but I2 says.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Carrie. I live off of Springfield Road in the condos there, the 29 units here where he wants to build out in front of us here. That would be several of the main concerns would be the hours of, just people coming and going and the noises. Cause I mean, I can hear the industrial park at night when the windows open. So I wouldn't prefer to, be hearing a lot of traffic coming in and out, if it didn't have controlled hours. The other concern would be these boats and RVs that would be stored. Would I be looking at them? Or are they inside something where I wouldn't be looking at them? I didn't understand that either.
There's
No,
a landscape buffer.
I'm sure that we would ask for a buffer between the residential and the commercial property, whether it be, something living or, but I'm sure we'd ask for a buffer.
Absolutely.
Are you talking about storing those vehicles outside or inside?
No, sir. We're talking about RV garages, which is a fully enclosed garage.
Thank you.
Yeah. In the spirit of, like I said, a more modern, slightly, more sophisticated facility, the fully enclosed garage, because being a resident of the city, I picture driving down and, seeing, a sea of either, boats or cars out in the open is I understand that that's not, necessarily, appealing. So, the idea would be the enclosed garages for the RVs. We feel like there's a market for that.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then
look-
the hours of operation was something that I even included in my email to Mr. Cerrone was, yeah, we're definitely open to, hours of operation in order to just restrict, just open, coming and going at all hours of the night and things of that nature. I've seen that that's fairly common in facilities that are located, closer to residential zoning districts.
So what's allowed in a C4? It says tools and equipment rental. So I'm just trying to think of things around the area, like United Rentals there in Columbiana, outside. That is allowed in a C4 zone. Because that's tools and equipment rental. I mean, it's right there. So if that is allowed in a C4 zone, as long as there's hours of operation might be, but I see it fitting in C4. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but I don't see it fitting as an industrial. My opinion.
I just think it's kind of a gray area because you have personal self-storage and then you also have the vehicular storage. I mean, it's kind of a gray area in the code where you could really kind of choose either way.
But it isn't called industrial storage. That's the big difference. It's personal storage versus industrial, commercials.
Well, I think our biggest concern is what it fits in, right? Whether it's C4 or I2.
Right.
Does that seem to be the general consensus of the board?
Yep.
Well, I'm just going to chime in again. You've got the automotive storage handled. That's specifically called out in here. The real question would be whether section 16, the similar use of similar in character, goes far enough to get to a personal storage. I mean, I could also quote that other section of code that would say no, because it's not specifically permitted, but this section gives you a little bit of a buffer. You just have to decide if it works or not. That's my thought.
C1, C2. Is there anything more in C1 or C2?
Right back.
Parking lots and garages. Okay, C3 calls for parking lots and garages. Maybe know that. Yeah, so C3 4 or number 6 calls for parking lots and garages. What does that mean? Would you consider these individual garages? Because C4 encompasses all of C1, C2, and C3. I think. No? Additions, C3, yeah. So C3 calls out parking garage or garages specifically. Are those individual units considered storage garages?
The RV garages would be considered that, I would imagine, because that's, they would be specifically built for those types of vehicles.
Mr. Boyd, would you say, if you had to put a percentage on it, how much would be personal storage and how much would be for automotive storage?
Well, you know, our site plan, our current site plan that we have is 216 units, and, you know, 14 of those units in this initial site plan are, you know, comprise RV garages. The rest is, you know, traditional self-storage.
So,
you know, both drive up and climate controlled.
Right. So out of the 216, 202 of them are personal storage.
Yes. In the,
The only
in the
other-
current site plan.
R2 or I2 requires to be 100 feet away from an R district. I don't know if we can come to a conclusion tonight, Ted.
Gotta kind of agree with you.
I mean, and to me, this is just throwing stuff out there. Is I understand the people in the residential neighborhoods around them. Okay, I understand that. But it's also on a main thoroughfare with good access and good sight, so something commercial is going to be there. Question is this the right item?
Does this fit?
Does this fit? I'd almost go as far as saying, you know what, I'd be more towards it if it did 100-foot setback from the residential. I don't know if that property will work like that. But then it kind of follows the lines of the industrial zoned area.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just to be safe, I worked out the initial just preliminary site plan with 70-foot setbacks, and there was still plenty of room,
right.
You know, to place buildings and stuff. So we're more than open to
right.
to something like that. I guess, Tucker, I guess just in the spirit of the law, obviously I need to sharpen my pencil to the letter of the law, but, you know, in the spirit of the law, you know, this business serves, you know, obviously it's going to serve probably 85 to 90% residential customers,
right.
And, you know, 10 to 15% commercial customers, which, you know, which most commercial businesses do.
Right. The only problem is on I2, there's that section of D under 6. It says public storage garages and yards.
That's what I'm looking at.
And that's the one that I'm trying not to look at, but it keeps glaring back at me. But with that said, I think the requirement for that is 100-foot setback from the residential to the start of that area. And I think that might be a big enough space. I mean, granted, planning commission has to go through it a lot more. But that to me would be an option, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think pretty much we should probably table this, Ted, because I think we're going around in circles anymore right now.
I'm sure you want to get anxious and purchase this piece of property, but I'm afraid that's probably the right move is for us to table till next month.
No, we're fine with that. We want it to be, you know, in the best interest of the city and the board. So, I mean, we understand.
If you can, Ray, take a look at it with 100-foot setbacks from the residential line.
Okay.
Just see if that still makes sense to you. Just off the top of my head, that's something I'd be interested to look at.
Yeah, look, I think a combination of that plus, like I said, there's already the start of a heavy buffer that goes down that property line. Some of the characteristics of the property and with a 100-foot setback could probably work pretty well.
Yeah, we'd ask for a buffer, and we'd probably ask for something about light intrusion on the neighbors.
Absolutely.
Hey, this is Todd Springer. I'm one of Ray's partners, and I understand sometimes with the buffer, but for the 100-foot buffer, is that just for cosmetic purposes, just being close to residential where it's not an eyesore or something for the residents?
Todd, there's a section in the I-2 code that says the following areas may be not conducted any closer than 100 feet from an R2 zone.
Okay.
So if you consider this a public storage garage, there's a section in that I code that, so we're kind of blurring lines and crossing a bunch of different things because we're going from C4 to I2 and try to picking and choosing as we want.
Yeah, because if you look at our site plan, we tried to really, put the storage facilities up against the residential so that they're not looking into the plan. They're looking at the back of a building that's going to look cosmetically nice. And the same thing with on the State Route 7. I mean, we want to put stuff over there as well as parallel to the other street. We want to make sure we put offices that we kind of mirror, like I wouldn't say retail, but like almost like a strip mall, something that's nice and appealing that people that live across the street in the apartments look across, they're not going to see, a bunch of activity and stuff going on.
Probably a little bit better of a layout, Todd, the next time, kind of showing how your plan fits the actual property itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the residential would be helpful, at least to me it would be.
Okay.
Agree.
To understand the residents and how we're dealing with them and making sure that they're well thought after.
Definitely.
And you may, if you build the facility right and we get through everything, it may actually act as a sound break between the industrial park, the highway, and the residents.
Okay. Agree.
So
I move we table this item tonight for more review.
I second.
Motion. Have a second. Deanne?
If I could make a comment before you vote to table, Deanne Davis, Springfield Road. I'm looking out my window at that parcel. I live right next door to it. Just one point of clarification, they are not apartments, they are condominiums that we own. And I do appreciate the fact that you said that you would leave the trees as the buffer because we do like the trees.
Absolutely.
Okay, roll call. Scott?
Yes, to vote that we table it. Yes.
Table, yes. Bryce?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes. We'll do our homework and see you next month.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate everyone's time and input very much. Thank you all.
Sure.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
The next item is a zone change amendment recommendation to amend the building height in all C4 zones from 25 feet, 75 feet. It's up to you now, Lance.
Mark and I were looking at the height in the C4 and it's it's just really, it's been like this forever, but I wouldn't call it a typo, but I think it is something that's been overlooked, and I think it's been wrong for a long time. I think it needs to line up with C1, C2, C3. I mean, it does not make any sense to C4 district to have a 25-foot height limit. A couple things. One is we have 25-foot C4 and C4 everywhere right now. And in C4, you're going to have, we have C4, like Best Western is in C4, and it's, it's 3 stories. So I think that prior administrations maybe have looked at it like, what's permitted in C1, C2, and C3 is permitted in C4, and maybe that's how they looked at that. But I just think that there's not one thing that's driving this. It's just a mistake that we found. I believe it's a mistake, and maybe Mark can weigh in too. But if we grab a tape measure and start going in the C4 right now, we're going to find a lot that's above that. And I think that making it 75 foot, same as C1, C2, and C3 would be safe.
I'll chime in. Lance and I did look at this, and the zoning code was adopted in 1974. And for anybody that's old enough to remember 1974, I can think of a couple of commercial buildings that were probably built just about time that if I took a tape measure, I'm thinking they're already about 25 feet. The Dutch Village Hotel is definitely above that. So, it seems like past planning commissions and councils have either, one, ignored the 25-foot and thought it said 75 feet, just like C1, C2, C3. If you read it literally, the black and white reading of it, it says 25 feet. We think, Lance and I think that it makes sense to mirror C1, C2, C3 in C4. If it was a typo, let's get rid of the typo. And in order to do that, the only way we can do it is do an amendment to the zoning code to change the 25 foot to 75 foot. So we have to go through the same process we go through for any zoning amendment. We've just had a couple of those I think you're aware of. So that means that there's a motion that's made that takes to council, certifies it, council certifies it back to planning commission. There's a public hearing that's required, so it isn't something that's just done in a vacuum, but this would be the start of the process. So that's why we're bringing it before planning commission this evening.
I think it's a wonderful idea, get things cleaned up so there are no questions in the book. And so I'll make that motion.
I will second that. I agree with you, Ted.
Can I make a comment before we proceed?
Sure, we have a motion and a second. Now's the time.
So I'm looking at the AM Legal site right now in chapter 12, and I see C1 has a height of 45 feet, C2 has a height of 45 feet, C3 is 75, and C4 is 25. And then over on the map section, C1 is 35 feet, C2 is 25 feet, C3 is 75 feet, and C4 is 35 feet. So I'm wondering why we're off on a lot of these, and if C1 and C2 truly are 45 feet and not 75.
Bryce, that's a very good question. We may need to look at all of them. My interpretation would be that the written ordinance would be we would look at rather than the map. But frankly, I'd have to do a little research. And you are correct. There seems to be a discrepancy between the map and the actual written ordinance sections. Why? I don't know. I wasn't on any of the village committees or commissions in 1974, so I can't tell you. And these have stayed relatively the same. So, should they all be cleaned up? Probably yes.
So is the C1 and C2 right now 45 or 75?
I think it is. I don't know that I would disagree with you on that. I think possibly they are, but again, you've got a map that says one thing, you've got ordinances that say another thing. You could take a look at all of the sections to make them line up with each other or set separate, heights, which seems to have been the intent in 1974. Why they aren't the same on the map and in the code book, I can't explain that.
We'll try to do some more research on that too. Mark, do you think we could have a general motion to clean everything up, make a recommendation to council for us to do our homework and bring it to council?
I think that would work. If planning commission wants to make that motion, then we basically would bring some recommendations to council in regard to C1, C2, C3, and C4.
Seems to make better sense to do them all at once than only one.
Agreed.
Then I should amend my motion to that.
And I'll second your amendment.
Then that gives us a chance, council looks at it, comes back to planning commission, we look at it.
Correct.
It gives everybody a chance to agree, and
it does. And to clean some things up that apparently, again, I haven't been here since '74. I tend to think that when issues like this came up, because I'm sure they did, that someone just said, well, it really meant this, or we'll just look at that. I don't know. I can't speak to what past planning committees and past councils have done.
well, if we get it cleaned up, the next people won't have much issue, so.
Exactly.
We have a motion and a second. Dan, if you would.
Bryce,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Well, somewhere I've lost my paper, so I guess what we do now is any comments from the commission?
Not to.
Any public comments? Anybody from the public that'd like to make a comment?
Okay, Ted, let me say, well, I'm just reading through this height exception. It says,
Okay.
under permitted height exceptions, public or semi-public buildings when permitted in a district may be erected to a height not to exceed 45 feet, except that churches and temples may be erected to a height not more than 75 feet. So that's even outside of the zone there. That's even outside of it's under general provisions and definitions.
Okay.
Tucker, are you volunteer to help us track this down?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Well, be careful, Tuck.
Long as we can throw in there changing the size of garages too. I never liked that.
one step at a time.
Yeah. Any other comments from the commission? And we'll go to public comments. Anybody from the public have a comment? Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you.